we'll deal with that at a later stage.
Don't have to respond.
Yeah, we'll deal with that at a later stage. Let's get to the main business of the day. And we request some members to sit at the back, and the person who's going to lead the information may sit here, two of them, lead out the information. And remember, we do not want a lawyer. We want the church to speak for itself. The leader of the church must take us through. We are not in the court of law. Okay? We want the church to speak to us. Because when these things were happening, the lawyer was not there. Okay? Most welcome. The leadership of KwaSizabantu mission. Okay?
Chair, may I ask if the proceedings are recorded?
Yes, they are.
If I could just introduce the...
Wait. Let's set, is the recording ready? Sorry? Just to be sure that you don't talk on the... okay? Before we commence, let me introduce to you the members of the commission. Okay? On my left, I have Dr. Petu, Sylvia Petu, the deputy chair. On her left, it's Commissioner Stele Tlamini. He's around this area. On my right is Commissioner Mbele, the head of the legal unit at the commission. And on her right is Commissioner Bwata, the advocate Bwata. And of course, we have the representative of the Premier office over there. And we've got two reps from the Social Development, Department of Social Development. And I see, yes, there's one, but there's also, there are two of them here to make sure that they observe the process. Kindly introduce to us the members of your team. The members of your team, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sorry, what's your name?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to introduce myself.
Okay.
Just to say that we have some 5,000 congregants, and they have asked the folk who are present to come and speak on their behalf.
They have done
If
that?
I could introduce you to them. Firstly, I'm Mr. Matia. I'll come back to that. Then there's Mr. Ngubani.
Mr. Ngubani, raise your hand. Let's see who's Mr. Ngubani. Okay.
Ms. Combrink. Martus de Wet. Dr. van Eerden.
Marcus de Wet, who is de Wet? Okay.
Dr. van Eerden. Mr. Kamalu.
Van Eerden.
Ms. Khadebe. And Mr. Mshlabati.
Kawaki over there. Okay. Okay.
Mr. Chair, I would...
And could you please tell us their position in the institution?
They're in leadership, they're in various positions of leadership.
Yeah, but I need to know specifically. What is it they do, each one of them? Is it the treasurer? Is it,
Could you just get that? I'll return and they will just write it out and we'll give it to you, Mr. Chair.
okay.
Mr. Chair, I would, at the outset, just want to respond to something you said when you introduced the the hearing or the meeting, and that is about legal representation. Well, firstly, I see nothing in the Act that prevents that. Secondly, I see that the Commission has 2 lawyers in its midst. And thirdly, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights is quite clear where people are accused of criminal offences, which is the case in the present case, mass rape. Constitutionally, they're entitled to legal representation. And unless there's a specific act, such as in the labour court situation, where it specifies no legal representation at certain forums within that labour process, I respectfully submit it's inconceivable that the mission can't be represented, given the constitutional right to legal representation, given the fact that this Commission has 2 lawyers in its midst. That would lead to gross unfairness. And I would therefore ask you, Mr. Chair, to permit me to continue.
Before you continue,
I'm the only lawyer, Mr. De Wet, who also happens to be a lawyer, but he's a member of the church. I'm not a member of the church.
Yeah. And let me say this to you, Mr. Matia. This is a fact-finding process. And when we go to court, that's when you will have your legal representation. Here we want to find the facts. We want to speak to the church to find out, is it true? Is it erroneous? Is this mere campaign? Let the church talk to us. Yesterday, since Monday, we spent time listening to ordinary people who are not lawyers, talking about their own situation. Which is why today we want to speak to the church, not to the lawyers. We want to speak to the church, tell us about how they are managing their affairs, what is happening here. All of that is what the church does on a day-to-day basis, not what lawyers do. Hence, today, it's simple. Tell us what actually obtains. What do you know about it? Some will say, no, this is what. They will explain to us. It's a clear information gathering.
Mr. Chair, I would have sympathy with your position in terms of information gathering process. But there's a prior question that I've been asked to raise, which is a legal question. And that is, I've been asked to apply to have that you as chair recuse yourself and possibly the rest of the Commission from this hearing. And to that end, I would like to just hand in something that came to our attention late last night, an interview you gave to News 24, where you purported, as I understand, to speak on behalf of the Commission.
Saying what?
Well, I will give you an opportunity you can confirm whether or not that's an accurate. We had to do it at 12 o'clock last night to get a transcription. And if that is what you said, you are profoundly compromised and you're not able to continue as chair of this hearing, and I would alert you specifically to 15(1)(d) of the Act. A member of the Commission may not act in any way that compromises the credibility, impartiality, independence or integrity of the Commission. Any member of the Commission who contravenes or fails to comply with subsection 1 is guilty of misconduct, and that goes with section 17, where such a member can be removed from office by Parliament. And it is our view that if this is an interview you gave, you've already made up your mind about the mission without hearing them. You've fundamentally compromised yourself and this Commission and this whole process. And you'll know that there's correspondence between us and this Commission over the last 3-4 days where we pointed out just in your letters that you've prejudged. But this interview is conclusive proof that you've sat as judge everything without hearing us and come to incredibly damning conclusions about us. Mr. Chair, you're a Chapter 9 institution. You're not merely a creature of statute. You're a creature of the Constitution. You have to be impartial, you have to be independent, you have to be fair, and above all, you need to uphold the dignity of all South Africans. What you say in that interview is a fundamental attack on those 5,000 congregants. And I simply cannot see how you can continue as chair in the light of that interview. And I'm not sure if the rest of your commissioners are aware of that interview, and whether you were speaking on their behalf.
Because you are making these allegations, very damning allegations.
Okay, we've listened to your point of limine, and we'd just like to get some clarification, having read the statements that was made, as to what you see as being problematic in the statements.
I'll just give you a few examples. Page 1. First paragraph, last 4 lines, but I think the thin line, it's a look to look at religion and religious practice groups, because really for what's happening in KwaZizabantu, so not what may be happening, what is happening is not religion. That's a direct, full frontal attack on the dignity of all the congregants of KwaZizabantu. That's what makes them who they are. The chairman of this commission has said it's not a religion. It's what happens when somebody abuses religion. So he takes it further. Not only is it not a religion, but they are abusing religion. They're turning it upside down. That's the first example. Now, remember, we haven't been heard yet. Then, the lower down, David Masoma, that's in response to the interviewer. I think now this is where I'm unsure whether, the chair was speaking about the whole commission, or whether it's the royal we. But it would indicate that he's talking on behalf of the whole commission that's present. We expect even more explosive testimonies of people who have had their experiences dashed. That's a statement of fact. It's a conclusion in that institution, and our aim as a commission is to probe deeper. So it's a statement of fact, once again, without having heard us, and now this commission wants to probe deeper, to understand the extent and the gravity. So abuses are happening, we want to know how bad they really are. But it's beyond question, in terms of what the chairman said, that they are happening. And abuses of human rights and religious rights, and whether or not these abuses can be corroborated if possible. Then lower down, the sentence starts, will lead us even understanding the character and the ambience from which these abuses occurred for many, many years ago. So it's a statement of fact that there are abuses at the mission, and they've been happening basically the last 50 years of the mission. Once again, it's the statement of fact. It's a conclusion. No doubt, based on what was presented to the commission in an untested way. The commissioner had no opportunity to test what was presented here. Although, when we were summoned last Friday, we immediately gave full written responses to the video exodus, part 1, to this commission, that we had submitted to the panel that's been appointed to investigate, and to the South African Police Services with 2 case numbers. We gave that to this commission. Quite obviously, the commission has not applied, hasn't even read those submissions. And the ambience in which these abuses occurred even from many, many years ago. And what is even more disturbing, so the hole gets deeper, is the caricature of individuals that have been created by that institution. So this institution has abused individuals, no doubt individuals who came and gave their version here of what they say happened. And I don't think that's the mission, to understand that the inner disturbances, the inner convictions that have been drawn out of that environment have made them, some of them, social misfits. So the mission, the chairman has found that the mission has caused people to become social misfits. What more damning conclusion can there be? Once again, without evidence, without hearing the mission side. And remember, we also invited this commission to be at the mission today so they can actually come and see. But they refused. Then on to the second page. I'll start at the foot of page 1. They can't relate very well with anybody because they claim to know God is the only one who's vindictive. So now they're talking about what the mission did to these individuals. And very oppressive. And this is perhaps the most egregious attack on the dignity of every congregant at KwaZizabantu. But never known a God of grace, and beginning to experience of God of grace after the departure from that institution. Now, if this commission had just bothered to read, for example, the book Revival Amongst the Zulus by Reverend Stegan, they would find out that the very heart of the ministry is about grace. Is about grace. And what the conclusion of this committee, or of the chairman, and as I say, I don't know if the rest of the commission were aware of this, whether he was talking on their behalf as well, he says only when these people leave the commission do they find grace. That's the whole ministry at the commission, at the mission, is about God's grace. But anyone who's theologically realized that grace is free but not cheap, and they only experience it after their departure. So that's 5 examples of damning conclusions by the chairman. Damning conclusions. A full frontal attack on the dignity of the congregants, having no regard to the fact that the commission is a Chapter 9 institution. It's not simply any creature of statute, it's a Chapter 9 institution. There's a special duty on the commission to comply with constitutional values. Transparency is crucial. Audi altrum pactum is crucial. Natural justice is crucial. Protecting individuals. I mean, one of immediately the question that comes to mind is the process and the documentation. Hopefully the rest of the commission are aware of the exchanges between us and the commission since we were summoned on Friday. Incredibly short notice. And there we highlight, even in the correspondence already, and then we get a letter yesterday from the chairman reassuring us they'll be impartial, they've made no decisions, they've come to no conclusions, etc., etc., and then we have this interview. But what's particularly striking to me is that the whole process the Commission has encouraged, and one of the things we highlighted in our first response is a letter from the Commission to the press, profusely apologizing to the press, quite clearly being led by the nose by the press, quite clearly trying to satisfy the press, trying to be seen to be doing its work. And that's why the press also was here right from the beginning. They were the first people that we told you spoke to. And even that, we didn't even know about the first 2 days. We found it by a third party. We weren't told. But what's striking, I raised this point this morning. And what is the Commission, what is the chairman, what's the first thing he does? He kicks the press out. Because now the Commission's credibility is at stake. He kicks the press out. But when the mission's credibility is at stake, the press, they fawn over the press. The Commission fawns over the press. And the struggle of the mission, folk, is, you know, in his trial, Jesus had 2 responses, to Herod and to Pilate. And to Herod, if you look at the accounts, he gave no answer to his questions. Why? Because he knew Herod wasn't interested in truth. Herod was only interested in furthering his own agenda. Pilate, he gave certain answers, but on his own terms. And that's why we came today. We respect Chapter 9 institution. That's why we've come. And Scripture is quite clear. We need to submit. We need to show respect for the authorities, but not at the expense of natural justice. When they tried to trial Paul in Jerusalem without a trial, what did he do? He claimed audi alteram partem, and he went to Rome. He wanted a hearing as a Roman citizen. So submission doesn't mean that we cannot call on the Commission to exercise its constitutional duty in terms of Chapter 9. And the evidence from Friday, and it's the final nail in the coffin, is this interview given yesterday. And once again, perhaps the Commission felt, perhaps the picture that's been painted that somehow the mission is this closed community in the dark ages, and somehow we don't have access to modern technology, etc., etc. Perhaps the Commission didn't think we'd even get hold of this. Anyone who comes from our region, by the way, where the mission is, will realize we're the most progressive, for example, farming community in the entire area, reliant on modern technology. So perhaps the Commission had a picture that they had created, or they allowed themselves to be led into believing, that we wouldn't get hold of this. Because otherwise, anyhow, that's our problem. And we simply do not believe that this Commission at the moment is capable of giving us a fair hearing, and that it must recuse itself. Not the Chapter 9 institution, the membership of the Present Commission. As I say, we still have to ask if the other commissioners knew about this. The chairman says we. Does he speak on behalf of everyone? Or is it just on behalf of himself? We don't know that. We only got this late last night. We've had to work under extreme pressure. Those who know where the mission is, it's difficult to access the mission. It's not easy, just physically to get there beyond Stanger. But that's our problem. Our problems. And we would therefore ask that the appropriate thing is for at the very least the chairman to immediately recuse himself. And we have to rely on the integrity of the other commissioners. We're not sure if they've also reached these conclusions before they heard us. We're not sure. Scripture also teaches that we must always think everything that's good and kind, and we must always give the benefit of the doubt. And that's what grace requires as well. But that doesn't mean being stupid and not fighting for natural justice and not being firm.
Do you mind if I respond?
No, that's fine.
Let's first get one thing straight. You weren't summoned. You were requested to appear. You were requested to appear.
And we are threatened by Section 7.
We can only issue summons in terms of Section 7. Yeah. This wasn't a summons issued in terms of Section 7. There was a request. You had a right to deny the request. You were informed in communication that you had the right to deny the request, but that we would use Section 7. Okay, so it wasn't a summons, it was a request to appear. Secondly, I think that the information that we've received in the last 2 days from witnesses has to be taken into context of what was said over here. And I think if you look at the statements that were made, whether or not these abuses can be corroborated, if possible, shows their impartiality immediately. The fact that we've listened to evidence of different people, numerous people that have come to the Commission and stated what in their eyes happened to them, yet we still made, the chairperson still made the statement whether or not these abuses can be corroborated if possible. When it comes to the statements at the end of that paragraph that you are talking about, they can't relate very well with anybody because they claim not to know God, and only one of those vindicated and very oppressive but never known as God of grace and beginning to experience a God of grace and after their departure from the institution. This in their own words. It's stipulated that this is what they said. This is what was stated in front of the cameras. When it comes to the rest of it, the first paragraph, if you remember, I don't know if you were aware, that the Commission went into a full investigation into the abuses of belief systems and everything like that. And based on what the statements that were being made in the last 2 days, if these can be corroborated, it's in context of that, then the church would be in violation. But then if you look at the third answer, if you look at the third paragraph, the requirements of the commission, for this particular purpose, we focus on religious institutions because we promote religious institutions. Remember, religious institutions have to be a home of hope, cultivating values of friendship, values of humanity, values of tolerance, values of forgiveness. Because at the end of the day, we are set out to create a cohesive society. When these institutions are working in variance, if these matters are corroborated, when these institutions are working at variance with these values, how then do we succeed in creating a cohesive society? And these are the questions as a commission. Our role is to make sure that these institutions operate in accordance with the dictates of the Constitution of respect of human dignity, because when human dignity is respected, humanity will begin to cohere, and this is at variance with that, if they are corroborated, if possible. If you notice, when it comes to a legal process, the first process is to hear the accuser and then to allow the accused to respond. We don't have accusers and accusers here at the moment, but there were allegations made against the institution. So the first process was to hear those that were making those allegations so we could hear their evidence or their side of the story, because this is not about evidence, and then to hear your side of the story. Then the commission draws up a report, not based on the chairperson's opinion, but based on every single member sitting on this team. A report is drawn up and recommendations are made. That report and those recommendations are then subject to a court of law, which means any recommendation we make can be tested before a court of law. I can assure you that this commission is impartial. Its primary responsibility is to promote and protect. That's its primary responsibility. And we take that responsibility extremely seriously.
Can I respond? Firstly, just you would know that when it comes to recusal, the law is clear. It's all about perception, not actual, but perception. But even so, your take on the extracts I highlighted, I profoundly disagree with your take. Certainly in terms of perception of the people at the mission. But I notice, but let's take those aside, that might be a matter of opinion, but remember the test is perception, reasonable subjective perception of bias. And it's quite clear from the points I've raised that there's clearly a reasonable subjective opinion of bias, that they will not get a fair hearing from the chairman and possibly the rest of the commission. As I say, we're not sure where the rest of the commission stands. Secondly, it's very telling you haven't dealt with the first paragraph, because there can be no doubt there. What's happening in KwaSizabantu is not religion. It's what happens when somebody abuses religion or turns religion upside down, so to speak. It's unqualified. There's no doubt what the chairman meant. It's not religion what's happening there. It's been turned upside down. It's abusing religion. There is no other interpretation possible to that sentence. Absolutely no other interpretation possible.
Let me just state categorically that the media present here would, in fact, say what is here is what comes from the mouth of the people who are here. I was giving a summary of what was, because they asked me to give a summary of what we heard. Okay? So that's why I use the word if corroborated, because this summary, even the issue of God, the issue of helpful God and all of that, God of grace, it's not something that comes from me. If you can check this media, has got all of that statement. I was giving a summary. Unfortunately, these could not be in parentheses as you speak. Okay? It's not what I said, it's what the witnesses said here, in full view. So giving a summary, that's what the issue of corroborated is very, very important to ensure our objectivity, impartiality, and independence in these matters. Having heard what they are saying, I said, listen, we are going to go back. Because beating, abusing people, cannot be religion indeed. Cannot be religion. So it must be discounted that the beatings and things like that are not part, and the raping of women is not part of religion. And I was trying to exempt for KwaSizabantu as a result of that. But you see, I'm making a judgment. I said, KwaSizabantu cannot exist as a religion to abuse people, to rape women. It cannot be.
Mr. Chairman, I'm afraid that any interpretation of that first, the end of the first paragraph, but I think that's you. The thin line is to look at religion and religious practices, because really, for what is happening in KwaZizabantu is not religion. That's what you think. It's what happens when somebody abuses religion or turns religion upside down. So you think, you've said, this is what I think. What's happening at the mission is not religion. You simply cannot avoid that conclusion.
I am discounting it. If you think abuse is religion, it's something else. And my view is that it's not religion.
No,
It only happens somewhat abuses. But really, KwaSizabantu cannot exist as a religious institution to perpetuate these things. Eh? And I'm saying it happens only when there's an abuse of religion itself.
Now you're saying what's happening in KwaZizabantu. So you're saying it's actually happening.
Really, remember, the point I'm trying, we're dealing with a particular institution here. Which is why today, that corroboration, that testing must happen to indicate. That's why I said the gravity. When I say the more explosion, is because we received what you call the evidence of people. Okay? So I'm making a summary here. I'm not giving an indictment or a judgment as such. And my statement is read out of context. Because I'm trying to say, no, this institution cannot exist for the following allegations. And hence, this particular corroboration is important. Hearing those who are concerned, is this true? I mean, if a young woman says to me, to this particular hearing here, I was expelled as a young person of 15. As on my way, and I was dropped in the middle of nowhere. My first menstruation was on the road. I didn't know, as a young woman, what to do. I did not even find a place to sleep. These are the questions I'm going to raise. I said, no.
This is a conclusion you've reached.
No, I said, KwaSizabantu cannot. I'm making that point.
Well, can we just look at the context then? The first
Can I-
letter
can
we
I
got,
just-
the 1st of
can I
October,
just say something
the letter from you, the 1st of October, the last paragraph, and this confirms that you've reached a conclusion. You say, please note that due to the veracity of the allegations, veracity means they're true. You've already found they're true. That's the first letter we get. Due to the veracity of the allegations made, that should you not take advantage of this invite, the Commission will have no other option but to utilize its summoning power in terms of Section 7 of our Act to ensure your attendance. So your very first letter to us, that's the first we get. I think it was on Friday. You concluded by saying due to the veracity. And this confirms that you already, on Friday, you already made a no, it's veracity of the allegation, the truth of the allegation.
It's allegations. As soon as you
But the veracity.
it's allegations. We're talking about allegations.
But fact, it's about perception.
It's
And
allegations.
and you,
I think
you're the
you're
lawyers,
getting
it's
into
about
semantics
perception.
over here,
No, it's not
because
semantics.
It's your perception.
It's not bad. What's
your
happening in
perception.
KwaSizabantu is not religion. How's that perception? The chairman has said, what's happening there is not religion. It's an abuse. Here it is. It's his words. What's going with perception? That's what he said. How do the congregants feel they're going to get a fair hearing from the chairman?
Listen to the procedure. The procedure is this. We hear those that have made the allegations, then we hear from those that have been accused of wrongdoing. Then we draw up a report not based on a single person's perception, not based on the chairperson's perception. The report is drawn up by the commission.
The chair is very important.
No,
He's the chairman.
chairperson
Well,
is
he's one
subject
member.
The chair is.
Well, that's why I'm asking
is
for the
subject
recusal
to
of the
13
chairman.
members.
Well, that's why I'm asking for his recusal, because he's expressed his view. He's reached a conclusion, and he
He is
hasn't heard us.
He's one person based out of 5.
But Chair.
Chair, you're 1 out of 5. He doesn't carry any higher level of authority within this committee over here. At the end of the day, the decision is all 5 of us. There's no perception over here. The perception that is here, that I read, is that whether or not these abuses can be corroborated if possible. I mean, that is a statement on its own that counters anything that has been said about impartiality. We listened to evidence for 2 days, and we still say whether or not these allegations can be corroborated if possible. I mean, how do you get past that statement as being impartial?
I'll just be repeating myself.
I wanted to check if you want to proceed or not proceed.
Well, we're asking you to recuse yourself. You need to make a decision so that we can consider our options.
I'm not recusing myself.
Well, then we need to obviously consider our options.
Yeah, consider your options.
In terms of that.
Yeah.
Could I ask if the rest of the commission were aware of this interview?
No, we weren't.
So this is just the chair.
But we are together as a committee.
So you all have, you support his sentiments expressed in the interview that I
Whether or
gave
not
you.
the abuses can be
The
corroborated
whole
if
interview.
possible,
Yeah.
definitely.
But the rest of the interview, you support all his sentiments. So, for example, you support that what's happening in KwaSizabantu is not religion, it's abuse. You support that conclusion.
I have explained. If it's
If
corroborated,
these abuses are corroborated,
If these abuses are
can be
corroborated,
corroborated,
yeah.
then yes.
if these abuses are corroborated, okay? The very incisive conclusion is the fact that this is a process of investigation. But these matters, as they have raised in the summary form, in terms of what people have said from their own experiences, these must be corroborated. They will say many things, but all of these, the church will have to put its own side of the story. Okay? People were crying before us here. I couldn't make a judgment that that's true. I said, but I'm making the point that I said, KwaSizabantu does not exist for abuse. Religion does not exist for abuse.
No, that's not what you said.
But remember the interpretation. That's what we call semantics.
It's not semantics.
No, I'm telling you. That's the point. It cannot be.
And remember, Mr. Chair, the law on recusal is perception. And I can tell you now that every congregant who've read this have absolutely no doubt that they will not get a fair hearing from you. Absolutely not a shadow of it. That's their perception. And they base it on this. Also, the history in the last 3-4 days, the letters that have been exchanged, that this is the final nail in the coffin, that they will not get a fair hearing from you. That's the perception.
Remember,
but the test is whether you think. The test is the perception.
Remember, when we draw our report, and our report is something that you don't feel acceptable, then you, on the basis of that, but you can't judge us on the basis of the statements, because I'm telling you the context within which it was said and how I said it in that context. You see, we didn't say it as if we are accepting everything as the gospel truth. We didn't say that.
So
You
commission
still
not
still have an opportunity to look at our report and
You-
say,
yeah.
this report does not represent what we actually say. Today, we want you to take us through what actually happened from your side. Then we listen to
You've
it.
already got that, Mr. Chair, in terms of what is in the Exodus video.
But there's
part
more.
one.
There's more. Remember,
Well, we don't know what we're facing.
Yeah.
That's also,
we
that's what the process is
interact-
fatal fraud.
we interact with you. We
So,
interact.
are you not prepared to recuse yourself?
No, I'm not recusing myself.
Can we just take time to consider our options, please?
We are back, all of us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for giving us some time. Before I give our response, I see that you are a professor in theology, and throughout this whole process, the words that come to mind in terms of the mission are the words of Philip to Nathanael in John's Gospel, after he had seen Jesus. And he said to Nathanael, "Come and see." Mr. Chair, we, after considering our position, we decided we need time to consider our options. Firstly, as regards the refusal by yourself, and still not quite sure to what extent the rest of the Commission share your views. That was a measure of ambiguity when I asked whether the rest of the Commission share your views. But as regards the refusal to recuse, and also as regards the other natural justice issues that are of particular importance when it comes to the conduct of Chapter 9 institutions. And once we've considered our options, we will inform the Commission in writing of where we stand. But for now, we would like to put a few things on record. Firstly, as regards the recusal application, as I've already highlighted, the legal test is perception. And I want to put it on record that the people at KwaSizabantu, without hesitation or without exception, particularly in the light of the latest interview that you gave, have perception that they will not get a fair hearing from you, nor if the rest of the Commission buy into what you said in that interview. But we'd want to emphasize again, and I said that in the introduction, that we respect Chapter 9 institutions. If you one day do apply your mind to what is taught at KwaSizabantu, at the end of the day, they seek to submit themselves to the teaching of Scripture, and Scripture is quite clear that we are to respect and to submit to the authorities. But we have a profound problem with how, starting from Friday and culminating in your interview yesterday, of how this Chapter 9 institution has conducted itself in the present matter. And certainly at this stage, it is our view that what has transpired, particularly this interview, amounts to misconduct in terms of the Act, which can in fact have further consequences for a commissioner. Secondly, we'd want to just place on record again, and yeah, one has to be realistic, that the room is full of the press and one wonders what they will extract from today. But hopefully there are honest journalists present who will take note of what I'm about to say. And that is from last week already. There are extensive written responses, 132 pages in fact, to what is said in the video Exodus Part 1. And these have been submitted to the police, and considering without a doubt the most serious allegations in that video of multiple ongoing rapes, it's the SAPS which is the appropriate state institution. This has been given to the police. They seized the matter. In fact, it was given to the police last week already. It's been given to the independent panel consisting of an advocate from the Durban Bar and a very senior attorney based in Johannesburg, who have no links with the mission whatsoever. And Mr. Chairman, it was given to you, when I say you, the Commission, last Friday. And we want to put it on record that from the mission's point of view, before anything else is dealt with, that the allegations of multiple ongoing rapes must be dealt with as a matter of urgency. For various reasons. You have the obvious reasons that if they're true, justice must follow swiftly. If they're not true, then the rest of the house of cards, in terms of allegations against the mission, collapses. Because if witnesses are prepared to make these allegations of multiple ongoing rapes, which is accompanied by life sentences, and the police find there's no basis for them, and it's only the police who can, because they're the only ones with the necessary power. They have to put a docket together, and then they have to send it to the National Prosecuting Authority. This commission, with the greatest respect, simply doesn't have the investigative power nor the skills to do the necessary work in this regard. But if it's found that that is baseless, then those witnesses who've come to you, how on earth can you believe anything else they say? Because then they've used an incredibly cynical method to sensationalize their story. And it's interesting that the makers of the video, Exodus 1, They included, two of the star witnesses talk about multiple rapes. As to our knowledge, the makers haven't submitted any evidence to the police. They chose to put it in there, no doubt, because it will increase their viewership. So it's the mission's position, and we want to put it on record, that that's our main focus at this stage, simply because of the gravity of rape. They prepared a response yesterday as a leadership. And in the response, they say the following when it comes to rape. In this regard, we completely share the view of Matia A.J. in S versus Daimani ECDCC 12-2007 as regards the monstrous evil of rape. And then there's a quote from the judgment. I have an aversion for adjectives and exaggeration by the judge, but in the light of the statistics highlighted above, I can, without fear of contradiction, state that our province, and indeed our country, faces an evil of gigantic proportions, especially when it comes to the barbaric dehumanization and brutalization of girl children by means of rape. And to just declare myself, it was my judgment. I was the judge. And that's why the mission was to put on record that that's the focus. Because that's its view. It's a barbaric dehumanization of women, fundamentally in conflict with everything that Jesus taught. And if it's true, the perpetrators must be brought to book, but the correct state institution is the SAPS. But if it's not true, and you'll see in what we sent to you, we've dealt with every single allegation with affidavits which show they're baseless. If it's not true, then those who've made the statements and those who are publishing them must be brought to book, at the very least for criminal defamation and criminal injury. And then, of course, everything else that's said in that program must simply be disregarded if they're prepared to be part of such a monstrous lie. And then finally, we would put it on record that, as I've said, that the SAP has already been to the mission, and we have given them right from day one. In fact, we went to the police. There are case numbers. And we have given them our full cooperation from day one. So, Chair, so that's all I want to put on record, and just to repeat, we would then need time, in the light of your refusal to recuse yourself and other natural justice deficiencies in the process that you're following, just to consider our options. And we will, as soon as possible, we've responded promptly at all times in the past 2 weeks. We will not, there will be no unnecessary delay, but as soon as we've formulated how we're going to respond, we will provide that in writing to you. We must say up front that our main focus at this stage is to give full assistance, and we'd only be distracted from that, to the police in their investigations, because we believe that is what's going to unlock just the monstrous lie that this is all about. With that, I would then ask, Mr. Chair, that you then excuse us from your proceedings.
Before you leave, it is important for us to put on record that we are here to listen to you, as we have listened to the witnesses from Monday to yesterday. The difference between us and the police is that the police will deal with the criminal aspect of the abuse. We deal with the religious rights of members to institutions of worship. That's why we established. In my interview, I included the values for which this commission stands and must promote. And one of those values is the respect of human dignity. When we talk about humanity, respect of human dignity, the tolerance, friendship, and peace. That's what we're trying to do. Okay? So we're not taking the religious, the criminal route. Even the issue of money laundering does not belong to us. But we do have a relationship with organs of state where we refer matters for further investigation, even prosecution. That we do. We're giving you an opportunity today, given the fact that this particular issue is in the public domain, but that you, to tell South Africa what the witnesses told South Africa about what happened there. For us, in the presence of the media, to debunk some of the assertions made, some of the claims made. Yes, we agree, you have the right to postpone this. You can postpone this. But remember, issue of rape, the president has said, it's a pandemic. It's intolerable. No institution of any kind can claim to violate this constitution by virtue of violating human dignity. At this point, we're not even talking about the freedom of religion, because we protect the freedom of religion. We do not close churches. We are against closing churches. But we want to correct if there are misconduct, if there are practices that are untoward. We have never called you a cult. Even in this statement, the issue of cult is not our language. We have not called KwaSizabantu a cult. And hence the statement I made to say it cannot be religious. It cannot be religion to abuse, to rape, and all of that. Which was a statement, a positive statement, which today you were supposed to put to South Africa and say, what has happened, it really is not what relates or identifies or defines who we are. But we respect your right to go and have time to look at these issues. We respect your right.
So Chair, just going back to your first letter, the 1st of October, you specifically say that you've received numerous inquiries from media to comment on allegations of cult, rape, and money laundering and corruption. And then you say, in order for the Commission to establish the nature and validity of these allegations, you say there you actually say you are going to deal with this.
Remember.
With all that, with money laundering, with rape, with cult. That's what you said in your letter, and you signed it.
Yeah, but what I'm telling you, the claims are there. The claims. But I'm telling you what we are about. So you understand what we are about. We're not going to charge anyone. We don't have those powers. But we want to understand and restore the integrity of the institution. Because these allegations are damning to the institution. But it's up to you. You choose that route, that's fine.
But you're a theologian, Mr. Chair. At the end of the day, it's not for a commission or state organ to restore the integrity of a church. The only one that a church must look to for justification is our Lord Jesus Christ. That doesn't mean we can't participate in this process. But also, just to repeat, that we've actually, there's 132 pages.
Wait, did you study theology?
Yes.
Where did you study theology?
Rhodes.
Rhodes University. What degree?
Natural divinity.
Okay. I'm a PhD. PhD. Systematic theology. Okay? I speak with authority in what I'm saying. Okay? As you would as a lawyer. So that's for another debate.
What
Hey,
I'm
you just
saying-
said you weren't looking at the issue of cult in your letter, you say. You
You
weren't
see,
looking at the issue of
remember-
money laundering in the letter, you say you
Remember,
were.
these are allegations.
But you just said you weren't going to be looking at that.
But
And in the
remember,
letter you said you were going to look at it,
I said these are allegations.
which you're going to look at.
Remember, when people speak, they will tell us about the nature of the institution. And in telling us about the nature of the institution, it will fall within the category of a cult or something else. But it is in the interaction, okay? We were giving the formulation of the allegations.
You know, you've got 132 pages from last week already. Extensive responses from the mission.
Remember, we wanted to hear from you. We didn't want to read papers and conclude from papers. We wanted to hear from you. What do you know, what you don't know? It may well be certain things that did not happen under your care, but we want to know.
Mr. Chair, I'm afraid I'm totally unpersuaded by your reassurances. If you look at the last 5 days, I'm totally unpersuaded.
Okay.
But I think we have to agree to disagree.
Agreement.
Would you
Thank you so
excuse
much.
us, please?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dedicated today to speaking to the church, but as you have heard, the church was not prepared to speak to us. In fact, my view is that they clutched on the straws. The problem is bigger. We wanted for them to tell South Africa what actually transpired. I think you indicated to me you wanted to hear my summary, which is what I did. The summary was not an indictment to the church at all, but it emanated from a conversation which we had, the testimony given by the people here. I was just restating, okay? That was the only thing I was doing, but not making an indictment to the church at all. So, members of the commission, do you have anything to say?
Just like to reiterate that the reason why we haven't insisted that they remain in front of us because they were never issued. This was a friendly request for them to appear before us, just as all those that made allegations were given a friendly request to come and give their story to us. So from a commission's point of view, they have the right to leave the way they have because it was a request from the commission for them to come.
Yeah.
Can I just please ask what's the next step then going forward? Are you going to pursue engaging the leadership of KwaSizabantu, or are you going to say, given that we have received 182 pages from their own informative reports, what they claim to be their side, this will be enough for you to draw a report on?
This was an opportunity for us, really, because some of the things said in there need to be tested. And the only way to test them is to speak to them. We can't test what is said there. That's why even if you make an affidavit, you have to go to court. You have to test the veracity of what you have said. So today was really a conversation with the church. So we are going to also sit back and reflect on this before just giving what it is that we're going to do. But the matters are on our radar. the issues of rape, the issues of abuse of people, because if you abuse people, as you have heard throughout the conversation here, is that people even reject God because of that. So our responsibility is to follow Section 31A and B of the Constitution, where no one should be denied the right to enjoy worship, to enjoy religion and things like that. So because abuse affects that relationship. So we are going to be looking at that. Okay? Any question? Thank you so much. Have a good...
Sorry, I just have one question. What can the commission do, really? I mean, the gentleman said here that the commission doesn't have, for example, investigative power to pursue all the things that are being made against the church. I'm just asking this to manage public perception as well. What is the length to which you can go?
Yeah. Remember, our commission mandates us to protect the rights of cultural, religious, and linguistic communities. We protect and promote. Now, what are these rights? The right is for people to enjoy, to participate, to be members of religious institutions. When that does not happen, it means their rights are denied or their rights are violated. So we need to make sure that these people are protected, that when they belong to institutions of religion, whatever the case may be, they are not treated as objects. They must be treated with respect in line with the constitutional provision that each and every person is endowed with human dignity. So those are the provisions that we're trying to protect our people wherever they go. You see?
Chair, on Monday you did mention that you'll also be traveling to Gauteng and the Western Cape Province to hear more witnesses, to listen to more alleged victims. Is there still the case? And if so, when?
Okay, Commissioner Botha.
Look, when it comes to our investigative powers, in terms of Section 5(1)(e) of our Act, we have the right to investigate any matter when it comes to the cultural, religious, and linguistic community, and when it comes to those rights. So when it is said that we don't have the powers, we do have the investigative powers, and we do have the ability to investigate these issues. When it comes to the other areas, yes, we will be looking into all submissions that are made to the Commission, and we'll be investigating anybody that wishes to bring complaints to the Commission in and around what we're investigating at the moment.
Yeah. And he's talking about the deadline as well. When are we going to continue that? As soon as possible. As soon as we live here, we organize the same in Gauteng. Depending on the number of people in Cape Town, we might even use Zoom, whatever the case may be, to obviate the issues of costs. Yeah.
Professor, are you still going to KwaSizabantu tomorrow?
We were invited to accompany the MECs, in fact. We still have to talk to them at what their views are regarding what has happened. We would not be averse to visit. I mean, we're not fighting KwaSizabantu. We have no grudge against KwaSizabantu. We want to see, in fact, it's our job to see the facility. But if they, we'll explain to the MEC and hear what she has today to say. But our responsibility, no place can be barred from us. We go there. Yeah.
Just for clarity, should KwaSizabantu decide not to, because like they said they're going to think about whether they want to come back, should they decide not to, what then happens? Will you then summon them? Will you continue investigation without them?
And I'm not so comfortable to reveal the strategy we're going to use. But we have that option of summoning them. They may well even turn their minds and say, please come, we want to hear, we want to set up our story. So we give them the option as well. But all depends, we'll really think about this properly as a commission. What next? Okay? Any other question? Good. Thank you so much. The meeting is over.